Man, it's been one hell of a 24 hours, less than 24 hours since one of the most disorganized, one of the most reckless, one of the most sloppiest AEW Dynamites that the company's put on in 5 years. People are associating Dynamite last night to the last dying days of WCW. Now, I don't think it was that extreme. I don't think we've gotten to that point. But everything that I said last night on the post show, I stand behind. The company right now, after delivering some of the best television that they've ever given us in the beginning of March. I've said this countless times. Some of the best television that they've given us this month since they started. Where did all that go? What happened? What happened in just 1 month? Their feelings and their egos were bruised because CM Punk and WWE threw some insults at them. Now, reports are coming in that locker room morale is low. People are frustrated within the company after the online backlash that the company is getting right now, which is very well deserved. And who did what? Who approved what? Who said what? Who didn't want to do this? Who didn't want to do that? Mixed reports coming in from everybody. You got people who want to give you the idea that Will Ospreay went out there and didn't want to do it. Then you got one side who is saying Will Ospreay did want to say what he said. You got one side saying the Bucks didn't approve or didn't want to do the leaked footage story and leaked the footage on Dynamite. Then you got one side saying that Tony Khan and the Young Bucks worked in unison to get this out there and it was a collective idea. Which side is it? What's the answer? Before I read to you anything, the answer is very simple. It doesn't matter who went out there and said what. It all ends. It all begins and ends with Tony Khan. He knows what's going on. He approves everything that's going on. And most of the creative, if not all of the creative, is Tony Khan. So if Will Ospreay didn't want to go out there, where did it come from? Tony Khan. If Will Ospreay wanted to go out there and say what he said, who approved it? Tony Khan. If the Young Bucks didn't want to go out there and leak the footage, whose idea was it? Tony Khan. If the Bucks did want to go out there and try and embarrass CM Punk, who approved of it? Tony Khan. Doesn't matter what I read to you in today's episode. It all begins and ends with Tony Khan. We're going to start with Will Ospreay because this is the lesser of two evils here. Wade Keller says that the Bucks were not in favor of airing the CM Punk Jack Perry footage. Will Ospreay's line about Triple H was not his idea. Whose idea was it? Wade Keller says this, and I quote, "I've been checking with people in AEW, and I've been told that this was not something the Bucks were in favor of doing. It wasn't their idea. It was Tony Khan's idea that he wanted it out there." They also had Will Ospreay go out on camera, interviewed by Renee Paquette on the stage. The first part of his promo was him addressing a comment that Triple H said on the Pat McAfee show, WrestleMania weekend, alluding to Will Ospreay being someone who didn't want to be a part of the grind. Now, Keller said the promo wasn't Ospreay's idea. I'm also told that this was an idea presented to Will Ospreay. I don't know about Ospreay's enthusiasm for or against it, but it wasn't something he did on his own. He didn't wing it. It was something that hours before the interview took place was proposed to him. That's what I'm hearing from within AEW. Keller went on to say that he hasn't heard anyone who was in favor of the Punk Perry footage or the Triple H comments airing. He says this, based on what I'm hearing from multiple people in AEW, nobody that they know was in favor of what Tony Khan put on TV between the Punk footage and the dig that Ospreay took at Triple H indirectly. People see it as a distraction, and Tony going after two people that Tony has issue with, Punk and Paul Levesque. Tony Khan sees Paul Levesque very much as a foe in this world. I would say the morale is not great in AEW as far as these situations after last night. At the end of the day, who's to blame? This is going to be a common theme throughout today's episode. Who's to blame? Tony Khan is to blame. So Wade Keller, the info that he got info that Will Ospreay wasn't in favor of it, and the Bucks weren't in favor of it. It doesn't matter. Because if they were or they weren't, who does it end with? Who makes the final decision? Who puts the stamp of approval on what happens on Dynamite? Tony Khan. It doesn't matter. Then Fightful puts this out in regards to both the Bucks and Will Ospreay. We'll start with the Bucks. Fightful reported last weekend when the news dropped Saturday after WrestleMania Night 1, where AEW was going to leak the footage. It was the actual footage they reported and not a bait and switch. Regardless of how you feel about the footage or the decision to air the footage, the reactions have been mostly negative. Most of the reactions that everybody has heard, especially Fightful, online is a lot worse. Fightful says they were very tepid. Very tepid. If I'm people in that company, I'm pissed after last night's show and the reaction that the show elicited on social media. With many saying it was much of what they expected, that it was for a one-night ratings ploy. That's something that you approve of from boss man Tony Khan? A one-week ratings ploy where they will probably get, what? Maybe 850,000? If that, maybe they'll do 900,000. What about the following week? When everybody realizes that's exactly what it was and there's no long-term vision, no long-term story, or in this case, a story that nobody gives a shit about and a story that doesn't even make fucking sense. Very tepid. I doubt they were tepid. If they are, people in that company should start getting pissed. There was talk of the mood decreasing backstage at Dynamite after the footage aired. More of the dread of social media bullshit than anything else they heard. They also learned that Tony Khan had the idea last week following Punk's interview with Helwani and the numerous shots last week in the media from WWE personalities only accelerated his decision to air the footage. By late last week, creative was set for the video, and the decision to promote it right after WrestleMania was planned. Like I just said, it starts and ends with Tony Khan. Regarding the rumors that the Bucks were not in favor of the segment, Fightful's told that this isn't true, and they were fine doing it and airing the angle. Of course they were. They don't like CM Punk. They have a gripe with CM Punk. They want to humiliate CM Punk. Tony Khan feels the same way, and they want to be proven right no matter how wrong they are in anything. And it's not just this situation. No matter what, they feel like they are never wrong, and they need to start owning up to their mistakes. So Wade Keller says the Bucks were not in favor of airing it, and Fightful is saying that they were. Same thing with Will Ospreay. We'll get to him in a second. FTR were given a heads up about this decision to promote it and signed off on it. And we're in line of thinking that if it adds to the storyline or buzz around it, then it's fine. Fightful also heard of no issues between Punk and FTR as a result of last night. The general response we heard from within the AEW locker room was that they felt this added to the importance of having a huge show for AEW Dynasty, and they didn't think the full pay-per-view schedule announcement the following day was an accident. So most of the AEW locker room, from what I'm reading there, are a bunch of oblivious fucking idiots. How are you not upset about this, and how are you writing this as a good thing that added importance to Dynasty? It did the opposite. No one's talking about Swerve winning the World Championship. No one's talking about Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. I don't even know what the fuck else is happening on that show because they made this a priority after last night. Nobody is talking about any other aspect of AEW television. So please, enlighten me. Indulge me on how this adds any importance to Dynasty when the one thing that they should be doing is building the show, but they only had the idea to humiliate CM Punk in the back of their minds. So much so that it showed in the show that we were given, because they made all these plans and preparations for this segment and to build this angle and to leak the footage, and the rest of the show suffered. Zero importance to anything else on the show. Zero. Unbelievable. Within WWE, there were plenty of people talking about the situation, but most we spoke to were exhausted after an insane WrestleMania week. We heard no particularly surprise reactions or anything that happened that anyone didn't expect. CM Punk is not getting suspended. He's not getting punished, scolded, or anything of that sort from within the company. There were a few wrestlers who considered the video a self-own, and others who said they simply didn't care and were watching out of curiosity. A long-time name that has been in WWE and AEW said that this is no worse than anything that happened during the Monday Night War era, and there are examples across the board of this happening back then. A long-time name has been with WWE and AEW. Who is that exactly? Is that Mr. Rhodes? Is that Mr. Cody Rhodes? Kind of leaning into, well, it's not that big of a deal. I don't really want to comment on it. I don't really want to give my opinion on it, but we've seen this type of thing back during the Attitude Era. It's not the Attitude Era anymore. AEW is competition to WWE in the lightest sense of the aspect of two wrestling promotions existing here in North America. Nobody is topping WWE. They are a fucking worldwide juggernaut. It's okay to be number two, but these people don't want to rest at being number two. They would rather destroy the company and try and get back at every little pot shot that WWE sends their way instead of focusing on what they need to do. And what they need to do is actively continue to build the fucking show the way that it needs to. They would rather kill the company from within than do what they need to do to build better television and get the company back on the right track. Cody Rhodes, I'm assuming, is the one that made that comment. This isn't the fucking Monday Night Wars. It's not. I don't want to hear any comparison at all. What they did was reckless, and what they did offered zero longevity or long-term aspect for AEW television. It was an absolute fucking fail in every sense of the word. The prevailing hope backstage was that this hopefully benefits Jack Perry. It won't. Both in his reaction from the crowd wrestling in Chicago this past week and in hopefully bringing him back to AEW to capitalize on the situation. It won't. You basically sabotaged your own fucking show to humiliate CM Punk, to bring back Jack Perry, who nobody's going to give a shit about. So much so that when the Young Bucks came out at the end of the show, or near the end of the show last night, when Okada won his match last night to set up his Dynasty match against Pac, the crowd chanted CM Punk, CM Punk at the Young Bucks. So much so that the clip on YouTube, I'm not even sure if it's still up there, got 20,000 dislikes and only 3K likes. I don't think the Bucks or Tony Khan realize that the heat that they're getting is not the type of heat that Jack Perry is going to need to survive on AEW television. Go away, heat. Get off my TV heat. That's exactly the heat that they're garnering for themselves, for the company, and for Jack Perry. Nobody gives a shit about Jack Perry coming back to television. You're not building the fucking company around Jack Perry. You're not doing anything long-term for the benefit of the company with Jack Perry. He will add nothing to AEW television. You know when Jack Perry could have been added to this entire situation? That's if the Young Bucks wanted to work with CM Punk and FTR weeks after the initial blow-up, not 9 months later. I don't see how that is going to benefit anybody at all, and I don't really see how fans don't see how desperate they are to cling on to some sort of relevancy when they right now can't do anything on their own to stay afloat, to compete with WWE, who is absolutely on fire in every aspect. Feels like a company that is completely lost. Feels like a company that doesn't know what to do next. Feels like a company that is losing grip on not being the alternative anymore. That's what it looks like and sounds like to me. Elsewhere in the AEW locker room, there were natural wish someone else would have got that TV time reactions. No shit. Several in AEW felt like they were in a no-win situation after CM Punk's Helwani interview, him poking fun at Ospreay, Triple H poking fun at Ospreay, Michael Cole's references to AEW, and Pat McAfee taking shots at Tony Khan and AEW on his show. There is no concern from any talent that we've spoken to across any company that this is a company killer, and most everyone agreed that the online discourse and hyperbole was something that AEW likely expected. It's worth remembering that reactions like these are based only on the responses we got and are subjective in nature. That's how Fightful ends their report in regards to the Young Bucks. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that AEW today, this was literally an hour ago, has already felt the worst of the online reaction. You don't think that they sent feelers out to Fightful, who they know right now is the number one source for news and information in the community, to get this out to Fightful so that when people read it and then it grows on social media with all the copy and paste merchants, that narrative now gets out there. Oh, everything is all right. Oh, we expected it. Oh, the internal reaction is, yeah, but we wish somebody else was on TV and got that TV time. But it's not that big of a deal. The death of AEW is highly just unlikely. And, you know, it's a lot of troll accounts making something out of nothing. Of course, it's been done in the past to dead a narrative, to kill a narrative. They don't want this shit out there. They don't want the unhappiness out there. They don't want the negative stigma out there, but they don't fucking realize that they're the fucking problem for the negative stigma. They are their own worst enemy. And if all you did was ignore it, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be receiving the online reactions that we're getting. It's all their fault. And then you got accounts doubling down on it. AEW's doubling down on it. They're sending feelers out to Fightful that nothing is wrong. Everything is all right. It's just what we expected. Give me a fucking break. Instead of holding people accountable, getting that locker room together and saying, what the fuck are we doing? You got Bully Ray out on his show offering to help AEW for free. Free. But nobody in that company wants to take accountability for the mistakes that they've made. What was that show last night? How are you looking at this pay-per-view, Dynasty in 2 weeks, as a potential success when nobody's talking about anything on that show but someone who's not even employed there for a match that we can't get, for a feud that should have been paid off, but the fucking people who still work in AEW didn't want to work with the other party who's no longer there anymore. Will Ospreay. Triple H indirectly made a shot. Devil's advocate here. Do we know he was talking about Will Ospreay? Could have been talking about Mercedes. Could have been talking about Okada. Could have been talking about any other free agent that signed with AEW for the lighter schedule, for more money. No, but everybody thought it was about Will Ospreay. Triple H said this on Pat McAfee's show, just as a refresh. When I see people trying to make it and they pick the job where they go, well, I work less and the schedule is lighter. Okay, I'm glad I didn't get you. Because if you're not in it for the grind in that point in your career, you have no business being in WWE. Who was he talking about? He didn't mention Will Ospreay. Am I supposed to believe that Triple H doesn't want Will Ospreay in World Wrestling Entertainment? Triple H is just being petty. Just like Tony Khan knows how to be petty. Ospreay responded on Dynamite saying, normally I wouldn't rise to this type of bait, but seeing how the guy who said it only is in the position he's in because he was grinding on the boss's daughter, you have no business telling me what the grind is about, my friend, because you have no idea what I fight for. Now, it's been very well documented that Will Ospreay, A, schedule works better for him, B, didn't want to uproot his family from the United Kingdom to move completely to Florida, where the WWE is located with the Performance Center. Everything worked out in his favor to join with AEW. He travels back and forth on Tony Khan's private jet. He gets to keep his family where they want to be. His wife probably works full-time over there. His kid is in school. They just bought a new house. Why uproot your family to go to the WWE to then not see them and be on the road 300 days out of the year? That's not what he wants at this particular stage of his life. So yes, the schedule and not uprooting his family from the United Kingdom to Orlando played a heavy aspect in Will Ospreay signing with AEW, plus the money aspect. I'm sure Tony Khan offered Will Ospreay so much more money than WWE offered Will Ospreay. So the schedule and not uprooting his family go hand in hand. He said it himself. So why are we making this into an issue? The man chose his priorities over going to another promotion. Good for him. He did what his heart said was right. I will never look at him and tell him he was wrong. Nobody should. Triple H should have been better with his choice of words on the Pat McAfee show. Ospreay did have talks with WWE, but established to Fightful that not uprooting his family in the UK while still working a full-time AEW schedule was important to him. There were rumors that emerged Thursday morning that Ospreay was fed that line. However, Fightful is told by sources close to Ospreay and the situation that it was actually his idea. Regarding the Will Ospreay promo, Fightful is told he was fine with cutting the promo and there were no issues in that regard, and he actually came into work with the creative team on the promo. The shots that were taken at him in the media last weekend puzzled wrestlers across multiple companies, with one WWE talent saying that it was clear that he was attempting to be respectful of the process and WWE after opting to go with AEW for the sake of his family. Fightful was also told that he ran the promo by several people backstage and that at one point, a shot at CM Punk was considered after Punk's tattoo line on Ariel Helwani. However, considering the nature of AEW Dynamite, many felt that was overkill and they decided against that. What did I tell you in the beginning of today's video? It starts and ends with Tony Khan. Will Ospreay, he wanted to do it. Who gave him the clearance to do it? Tony Khan. The Bucks, Wade Keller says, didn't want to do it. They were not in favor of it. Sapp of Fightful saying that the Bucks very much wanted to do it and it was a collaborative effort. Who gave them the okay to do it? It was detailed and documented and planned this Saturday after they announced it. And they got it ready for Wednesday's show. Who okayed it? Who put the stamp of approval on it? Tony Khan. Everything starts and ends. Every decision starts and ends. Every termination starts and ends. Every hiring starts and ends. Every Dynamite, every Collision starts and ends. Every match card you see is built and put together from top to bottom, starts and ends with Tony Khan. It doesn't matter what Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, Will Washington, or that fucking lazy creative team that they have employed over there, if you can even call them that, says. It's Tony Khan's show. Tony Khan is becoming the one thing that he vehemently despises, minus the sexual allegations and the rape charges. He's basically becoming Vince McMahon. And if he doesn't see it and open his eyes, it's going to be too late. There's more here, but I will save this for tomorrow. AEW did not include all-in footage of the CM Punk situation allegedly threatening Tony Khan on Dynamite. And people right now really frustrated over everything that happened last night, says Dave Meltzer. Frustrated. Again, conflicting reports. Meltzer is saying one thing. Keller is saying another. Sapp is saying another. We don't know what the general feeling is. Which then, in retrospect, you look at all these reports. You look at these reports from outside the wrestling bubble. You kind of get the feeling that favoritism is being had. Some people are protecting themselves and AEW. Some are not. Some don't give a shit. Seems like Fightful got the earful and was told to put some shit out because AEW's gotten so much heat the last 18 to 24 hours that it's gotten too hot to even stand on social media. Meanwhile, Meltzer says there's frustration all over the locker room. I would tend to believe that because if there's not frustration, I find that to be a fucking really shitty situation. I find that to be fucking ridiculous if there's not. Nobody's talking about Dynasty coming out of last night's show. Nobody. And nobody's going to be talking about Dynasty coming out of next week's show. It's all about the guy who doesn't work there anymore. It's all about the guy and the match that cannot happen. Jack Perry on AEW Dynamite on AEW television is going to do jack shit for their ratings, for their interest levels. Zero impact. This is what you put all your eggs in the basket for, Jack Perry, and an eventual return to garner heat? I don't know if you guys realize this isn't the heat that you want. Read the fucking room. Clearly, AEW can't even do that correctly. Thank you guys very much for all your support. We just hit 157. We just hit 158,000 subscribers. Unbelievable. We went from 157 all the way to 158 just based off last night's stream. Unbelievable support. Thank you guys very much for everything. It's been a tremendous week, and we are not done yet. I will keep you guys afloat on all the news coming out of this situation, and the next time you see me, we'll be with more news on this topic, and then live tomorrow night for the Friday Night SmackDown after WrestleMania. Tons to look forward to right here on OTS. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the bell for notifications, and go check out all the other videos on the channel, every stream that you might have missed. But if you guys want to catch it again, please go and check it out. It's all on the homepage, and make sure you keep up to date on social media, on X at JD from NY206. Guys, thank you so very much. Enjoy the rest of your Thursdays, and I'll be back tomorrow with more news right here on Off the Script. I'll see you guys later.